Denmark is like a village. Copenhagen is not a big city. There was needles from drug addicts just laying on the ground. The public does not agree with my stance, which is fine. Again, I chose to move. Why did you leave Denmark?
Yeah.
You lived in paradise. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I am Julie.
I'm Jiayi.
And today we're going to be talking about the most common question that we get asked. Why do we live in China?
China, a ticking time bomb.
Why did we choose to live here? Why don't we live in Denmark? Are we eventually going to move to Denmark?
They say that we Danes are the happiest nation in the world.
Spoiler alert, we're not.
Yeah.
Our plan is to stay here in China forever.
Yeah.
Hopefully. But if you're not already a subscriber of our channel, I hope you'll considering staying with us and becoming a subscriber. And yeah, let's get on with the video.
Why are we living in China right now? Why not Denmark?
Okay, so first of all, I always knew I wanted to leave Denmark. I never really felt like that was the place for me. Not that Denmark is a bad country. Sometimes you're just one of those people that know that you want to like explore other options. And yeah, when we met, there was just certain things that made me feel like China would be the better option for us as a couple rather than my home country or another part of Europe. That's another option we had, is obviously like an EU country, because for me it wouldn't have been difficult to migrate to another EU country.
You can just move to other European big cities.
Yeah. So I think we should just go through like my reasoning. So I think one major part was that there's more people in China compared to Denmark. Denmark is an extremely small population. For those people who don't know, we're less than 6 million people. So China obviously has a little bit more than that. Just a little.
Hangzhou is a little bit more than that.
Just a little. But China has more people, so that also means more opportunities, or more options, I should say.
More possibilities.
It's because in Denmark, it's like a village. You essentially live in just a big village, so everyone kind of knows each other. There's the same norms everywhere. There's not a lot of what I would consider creativity. So if you're slightly outside of the norm, in Denmark you'll really feel it because you don't fit into like the Scandi thing. I think like Scandi fashion is actually a great way to recognize it because it's very cookie cutter, it's very clean.
Not jumpy.
Not jumpy, not too crazy.
Yeah.
Don't be too crazy. And I've just always been a little bit different than that. Yeah. I have not been the stereotypical Dane my whole life. And I definitely felt that growing up. So I just wanted to experience somewhere that was bigger, more options, more types of people. And automatically you'll have more types of people when you're somewhere that has more people.
Yeah.
It would be a little bit scary if all Chinese people were very similar people. Yeah, so that was definitely a big reason, I think. Another one was I want to live in a big city. I know some Danes will be mad at me for saying so. Copenhagen is not a big city. When I say big, I mean at least 5+ million people. And that's the bare minimum. Because if you live in a city that only has 1 million people, every Chinese person will understand what I mean right now. You will run out of things to do so fast.
Yeah, and you know most of the people in your generation.
Yeah, you'll run into people you know.
Yeah.
All the time. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I would actually love that. But the other aspect is a lot of new things, a lot of activities. It'll just kind of become a little bit like, after a while, for me, I'm a very, very hyper social person. So yeah, I need somewhere where I can fold out in all of my craziness. And Denmark just doesn't have the capacity for that.
At least here, you never run out of new things.
No, I think in our local mall, just since I've been here, they've opened and closed at least like probably close to 10 stores now.
Yeah.
In Denmark, I don't even think 10 new stores open up a year in a mall. I think it's important to talk about some of the things that are unique for us as a couple. We've also just made a video that's about international couples, what they should talk about, and that actually refers to one of these points. But career options, in our case, you went to a very good university. He's very smart. I get to brag.
She's smarter than me.
He says
way
that,
smarter.
but overestimating his girlfriend right here. But you went to a very good university and you have a very good degree, I would say. But a lot of that would just go to waste in Denmark or in most of Europe because they wouldn't necessarily recognize his degree.
Yeah.
And personally, I feel like that's a waste. You're older than me.
I'm 30.
Yeah, he's turning 31 in a few months. Well,
Come
actually,
on, I'm still 30.
he likes to hang on to that. That's cute thing. Keep believing it.
我都29了，我跟你开得起这玩笑吗？
And I just turned 26 a few days ago. He's obviously further ahead with his career plan. I didn't quite have a plan yet. That was completely set in stone, so there wasn't much for me to lose, if I'm honest. Or at least nothing I wouldn't have already lost if I chose to leave Denmark anyway. Then there's the other factor, which I considered a lot because you're an only child. I would feel like his parents would be left without anyone. This was not a thing you ever said to me.
Yeah.
But
it's very sweet that you consider that.
Because I feel like for his parents to lose their only child they have here would be a lot harder. I'm not saying my parents don't miss me, but we actually filmed a video with my parents where they mentioned that obviously they miss me, but it is different because my whole life my parents knew I wanted to leave. They were prepared for this since I was very young, that I would probably end up leaving one day. So mentally for my family it's easier. And I feel like I've kind of gained two extra parents, and your parents, they're so sweet. They're very considerate. They're like, be nice to Julie. Remember, she's left her family, so you gotta be good to her. It made me so emotional when they said that. I'm a little bit nervous to talk about this because I know it'll offend certain people back at home, but also people abroad, because I know people have very, very different stances on this issue. But for me personally, when we got serious, I was also thinking about a legitimate future as a family one day. One part that is happening in Denmark and has been an issue for a while now is that drugs are very prevalent. And for me personally, it's very hard to watch. It has been very uncomfortable being young because at parties there will be these substances out and about, and you can't really avoid being in close contact with people taking drugs.
Yeah. I don't think people in China understand what you're saying. Because, you know, it's not like, oh, I don't want to do it, so I don't do it.
No.
Sometimes, like, you don't do it, you don't have friends.
Yeah. I would say I have lost a very, very, very decent portion of friends because I didn't want this in my life. Disclosure, my mom works with addicts, primarily people with alcohol addictions, but also people who have drug addictions. So drugs is obviously more serious than that. I hope we can acknowledge that it is. And yeah, seeing it be a growing issue and seeing that it's very socially accepted, I just don't personally want my kids in the future to have to make those decisions, because it really, really sucked having to give up friends and give up much of my social life actually to avoid this area. Like, even if I told people, hey, I don't do these things, I don't want to be close to it, can we please stay away from it, suddenly, and this is not an over exaggeration, suddenly they are they're sniffing a line, and now you have to deal with someone who's high and drunk. And mentally it's just not healthy for me. I don't want to be close to it, and it's illegal. So I know that a lot of Western people will see me as a snob for saying this. I just don't need this in my life.
I'm gonna be very Chinese about it. I can't accept it. I can't accept my kids growing up in an environment like that, I don't want to live in an environment like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and to be quite frank, if we had moved to Denmark, we would probably have moved to Copenhagen at least eventually. Copenhagen has this way more than where I'm from. Or at least it's more present in the open. When I was in the 9th grade, me and my mom arrived in Copenhagen, there was needles from drug addicts just laying on the ground. If you have kids, I cannot imagine how scary that is. I'm just saying. It would just be another stressor, and I didn't want to have to deal with that. That's my personal stance. I don't think people who have drug issues are bad by any means. Actually, quite the opposite. I just don't need that as a part of my life personally. That's my personal decision on it. I mean, I very, very much hope that Denmark's politicians eventually decide to do something more dramatic about it. But right now, that's not what it's looking like, and there's not a huge public favor for it. The public does not agree with my stance, which is fine. Again, I chose to move, so they can do whatever they want. But yeah, it does make me sad. Yeah. I'm so nervous about some people getting so mad at me about this. You're entitled to be mad at me for saying this. Racism in Denmark is an issue. Racism everywhere is an issue. Everywhere has racism. China certainly also has racism. I made a controversial post about my experience here, and people got quite mad at that too. So people just in general get very mad when you point out that it exists, no matter who you are. But obviously, us having children here, if they happen to look more Asian, would have experienced anti-Asian racism. Anti-Asian racism in Denmark is certainly worse than whatever I will experience in China, which is why I very openly chose to move rather than him, because you would have also experienced it one day.
Yeah, and us as a mixed couple. I just think me as Asian man, a Chinese man, moving to Denmark is probably not the smartest move. Yeah.
And before anyone says that would not have happened, I have personal experience with this. Again, my social circle is incredibly diverse.
So when you hang out with your Asian friends,
yeah, it's horrible to go through on a day-to-day basis, having to worry when someone might yell after you. Is it
mock
causing
you?
Yeah, I'm not saying that'll happen every day, obviously, but you'll have to have that in your mind, possibly, and I just don't think that's healthy for anyone. I wouldn't want someone I love to ever go through that. Yeah, it's incredibly upsetting to see it happen, and I just did not want that for you. And I certainly didn't want our future kids, hopefully, to have to go through something like that. I don't want them to feel ashamed of what they are in the slightest. That was another very huge part of it, for sure. And also one of the reasons why I don't see myself moving back to Denmark if we have a family at all. So then there's something so ridiculous as me just not liking Danish weather. I don't think most people like Danish weather.
Liking is one part, but you can't stand it.
No.
Yeah, you hate it.
I really do. I can't handle cold at all. We'll never move to Douyin even though he's from there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
She barely survived in Danish wet weather.
I barely survive here when it's cold.
Yeah.
I live in Hangzhou and I think it's
This
cold.
is the southern part of China.
You guys, it got to 13 degrees and I got sick immediately.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing to admit. I'm from Scandinavia, but I can't handle cold temperatures, not even a little bit. The constant, rainy, windy combination.
Yeah.
Rain is not bad.
Yeah.
But rain and wind combined, so you can't use an umbrella, it's horrible. And then I was drip, 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 drip for weeks. For weeks! It's not good for you.
And it's always dark.
Oh yeah, in winter, the sun is barely to be seen. It never fully gets up. And in the summer, you have very long days, which I personally like, but I think for most people, they find that very annoying. So The climate here suits me a lot better. I feel better. My skin feels better. My hair feels better. The water quality here is not the greatest. Get a water filter. But everything else, great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, by the way, for anyone thinking of moving to Scandinavia, remember to take your vitamin D.
Because you don't get enough sunshine.
You cannot get naturally enough vitamin D if you live in Scandinavia, so you'll get winter depression, which I've noticed happens to a lot of foreigners, that there's something like in the winter months that I just don't feel good. I just constantly feel tired and depressed. And I'm like, do you take vitamins? They're like, no. I'm like, that's why you're getting winter depression. It's a very, very real thing. It's not a meme. Visa for me was easier. Sadly, for Chinese people, it can be challenging.
Yeah, like Chinese passport is not the best passport in the world.
No. He already did find out, though, that I didn't know about, that you could get visa for the UK. But that would not have helped me escape the bad weather.
Yeah.
And no offense to my people over in the UK, I feel like most people live in London. If you like the big city life, and the cost of living there is just so ridiculous. Like us buying a house would just not be realistic.
Yeah, it's too ridiculous. It's worse than Beijing or Shanghai.
Yeah, not to say that Hangzhou's housing price is not already very high.
Yeah.
But it's within reach, you know? Yeah, so it was just an easier choice for me. And again, I was already heading out of Denmark, essentially. And I enjoy Asia. I love China.
Yeah.
I think Chinese people are great. I find them very funny. Especially Northerners. I feel like I jive with your guys' humor.
Dongbei.
Yeah, because it's like, I don't know how to explain it. It just feels very similar to...
Yeah, it's very homey. It's very down to earth.
Yeah. It's just very easy for me to understand that side of the culture, which I also think helped us as a couple. Yeah, I love the food here. I wildly prefer Asian food over most European food. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of diversity. It's a huge country. There's many places here I want to visit. So for me, it was just a good choice. I was very curious about what living here would be, and so far it's been good.
Yeah, and you have been here before, and you had a good impression, so...
I think it means a lot if your first impression of someone, this is gonna sound very like archaic almost, I guess, but if the first person you meet from somewhere is a good experience, your threshold of bullshit that you'll be able to handle will be a lot higher than someone if your first experience with a certain group of people was negative.
Yeah.
Then you'll automatically think like, oh, all of them are bad.
Yeah.
Where for me, every time I experience anything even mildly negative here, I just think about like, old people in Beijing are so cool.
Yeah.
Like the people that do like Tai Chi in the parks, so nice, so friendly.
And they're very talkative.
So talkative.
Yeah.
I couldn't talk to them. I don't really remember talking to them much, but I just remember liking them a lot and them being so funny. Yeah. So I know some people are in my DMs on Xiaohongshu telling me like, you'll regret it. Why did you leave Denmark?
Yeah.
You lived in paradise. It's a little bit rude to assume someone would uproot their whole life without doing any research. I get that I might not look very smart, but I'm not that stupid.
Yeah.
I made my decision wisely. Let's put it that way. And I'm very happy with the choice I made and what I got out of it. I'm happy I live in China.
Welcome to China.
Thank you. But I do look forward to visiting Denmark with you in the future. I think Denmark is awesome. I'm very much planning on our kids going to visit Denmark in the summers because their summer break will be long. And then they can go on a mini vacation to visit their family there.
That'd be a good plan.
Yeah. Alright, so I hope this video answered the question of why we've chosen to live in China, or at least what led me to make that decision of moving here. And I hope you come back to future videos of ours.
We'll definitely make more content in the future. So stay tuned and follow our channel.
Yeah, and please like and subscribe to our channel. See you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye. For example, in Denmark, having very, very tight relationships with your opposite gendered friends is very normal. Like hugging, even sitting on their lap would sometimes be considered normal.
For me, it's a no-no.
And if you're not religious as a person and you meet someone, you're in love with them, they just seem great, and then they bring up conversion, run.
So they might say, "Oh, you're so lucky you live here." Like this is very common. Yeah.
I'm so lucky I live here.